Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another absolutely spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting into the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today, oh boy, we have someone really, really cool on the program. She is a professor of interdisciplinary studies at Humphreys University. She provides practical, accessible insights on navigating human interactions, complexities, and has a unique perspective on effective communication. Her new book, Talk Types: How What We Say Reveals Who We Are. Isn't that really all we have to say to kick things off in this episode? Thrive Loud listeners, my absolute technical expert guru here on this show, I bring you Amanda Kenderes. Amanda! Welcome to Thrive Loud.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
The listeners need to know sometimes when we get guests on the program, we got technical things that just don't make any sense. And then everything starts to work, which is always really cool. And I'm excited to have you here. I love communication experts. I love what you're about. And I think you have a really cool message, but I want to kind of bring the listeners up to speed. Amanda, if you could, share with the listeners how what you're focused on now became your gig.
Yeah. So I was raised internationally. I grew up on 5 continents: North and South America, Asia, Africa, Europe. My dad worked for the U.S. Embassy. And I had the sense that if I was going to have a good experience in any one place, I would need to connect with people quickly. Because we'd soon be moving on once again. And how do people connect? Through talk. So I became a student of communication from an early age, elementary school. And I observed in people that when people are first getting to know somebody, they seem to start out with this kind of objective, factual talk, like weekends coming up, or talk about the weather. And then as they get to know somebody a little bit more, they sprinkle in some personal details and relate with one another. Like, oh, what did you do over the weekend? Did you have fun? And then if they get to know each other more, they might get to a point where they'll talk about hopes, dreams, what have you. And as a kid, I thought, well, shoot, I like the deep talks. So let's skip the small talk and dive right in. So at the, on the playground with my peers, I would talk to them about their home life and their hopes and dreams and goals. I would try. It didn't always work out very well. So then no surprise. So then I thought, well, maybe this isn't something that kids do. I'll go ahead and try this out with the adults in my life, teachers, coaches, bus drivers. And so I would ask them, questions, big questions like, what is happiness? And if they were married, I'd ask, how did you know you'd found the one? Didn't go over very well either. And so then I got really depressed as a young person. Although I didn't really show it much on the outside, people wouldn't have known it. I had friends. I kind of learned the way that other people talked and walked, and I did that. But on the inside, I was thinking, gosh, what space does that leave for me? Because I like to do the deep talk. Fast forward 10 years later, I have an epiphany that these levels of conversation that I thought were levels, they're not actually really levels. They're categories of communication. And there are really only 3 categories. There are 3 reasons that people talk across the planet. I've spent, since I was 19, when I had that epiphany, I've spent the next 25 years across 40 countries unpacking this, and I found it to be true all across the world. Only 3 reasons that we talk, and we don't like them all the same. And as a kid, when I thought that I wasn't very normal, because I wasn't like everybody else after I practiced and people weren't really participating with me, finally, I felt and I realized, no, actually, I am one of these 6 normals. There's not one normal, there's 6 normals. I'm one of them. So 3 reasons for talking. And when you rank them by preference, you get 6 talk types. That's it. It's a unifying theory of communication. And there you have it.
Okay.
Stop me. Stop me. I get excited.
So many questions, but I'll make the simple ones and the most obvious ones. What are the 3 ways? The 3 talk, not the 3 talk types, the 3 ways that people, the 3 reasons why people want to talk. What are they?
So there are 2 broad reasons, which are we talk to share our experience, or we talk to share our understanding. That's it. Too broad. But because our understanding can be objective or subjective, we end up with 3 reasons ultimately. So it's kind of technical. Let me break it down. So we've got objective understanding, subjective understanding, and then subjective experience. In everyday words, it's factual talk, A, relating, B, or C, meaning making. And people, if you imagine a Punnett square, and you have experiencing, understanding on one end, and then you have objective and subjective on the other. Well, you get A, B, and C, and people ask me, well, how come there's no D? And the reason is there's no objective experience. It's impossible. Experience is by nature subjective. So we are left with 3 reasons for talking, and that's it.
So I'm fascinated by this because I'm starting to break down. So storytelling obviously would fall into this relating area of I'm guessing, or is it? Can when we talk, do we cover all the different reasons of what
that's fascinating. We can tell stories in A, B, or C. We joke in A, B, or C. We flirt in A, B, or C. Our movies are A, B, or C. Every single thing that involves communication, which is the overwhelming majority of our life, is categorizable by these groups.
Amanda, and I'm loving the simplicity of it in figuring this out and testing it and putting it in there. Obviously, you probably, no pun intended here, talked yourself silly to try to question how come there's no D? How come the Punnett square didn't fill the other box? The subjective / not half objective component of this piece. In talking yourself through this, I now ask the question, some people talk to themselves. In all the ways that we talk, no matter whether it's to ourselves, whether it's to an audience, it still falls into these systems. Did you find that? Did you try to figure out how I can get it out of the box? Or 3 of the 4 boxes? Yeah,
we can develop our talk type muscle for different categories that we don't normally use. But to see this in our everyday lives, maybe it's best that we break it down a little more, take an example. Usually helps. So and there are archetypes and examples that people can relate to for each one. But for factual, it could be something light and surface level, like, oh, did the 8:25 bus already come? Or it could be deep, like, if the universe really was created by a big bang or started by a big bang, then in today's physics, matter can not be created nor destroyed. So we must have had a different set of rules and principles prior to that occurrence. Okay, that would be deep A.
Yeah, got it.
But it's still fact. It's still, yeah.
It's layers within these talk types. So now you mentioned here there's a multiplicative thing, that there's actually, instead of the 3, there's the 6. Is that because we're engaged in a conversation of that talk type? Where does the other side of the equation, how do we get from 3 to 6 on the drill down level?
Yeah. So if you've got A, B, and C, and you have these 3 variables, there's 3 groups, and you rank them in order of preference, you could be an A, B. So you like A best, B second, C. And then there are 6 ways to rank them. Somebody else is going to like it best.
Yeah, it's your preference of where you like to talk or what that talk could be. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Now we'll drill down to the heart of the matter. How does what we say reveal who we are? How does the talk types actually define maybe the person that we are? Because to your point, we can have a conversation or have a storytelling session or this interview in and of itself in all these different talk types. But how's that going to reveal who Lou is, who Amanda is?
Gosh, in so many ways. Just like for me, I loved the deep talk. And so I was a C dominant. And C is all about that deep meaning making, subjective understanding. And so I really want to understand where people are coming from and make sense of, I'm a CA, make sense of the factual world around me, and not just understand it objectively, but what's the actual implications of that for people in our lives? And that's going to impact how I spend my leisure time, what kind of friends I like to make, what kind of jokes I make, the way I flirt, the way I feel known, the values I have, what makes me feel understood, the things that I delight in. So all of this, and it's different. There's a different set of features for each talk type. Mm-hmm. If you're B dominant, it's like, okay, I'm going to practice relating. This is what I like to do as a B dominant. So I'm going to share about maybe the timeline of my day, or I'm going to get out my phone and show you pictures of my dog and, in her little dress or something, and how cute. That's my subjective experience. And my goal in sharing my subjective experience is to be heard, not to be understood, to be heard. I want to witness. And then, haha, or that's so cute. I get a reaction and we move on. Nothing deep about it. So, but for example, if I'm a B dominant and I'm doing relating with somebody, and they interrupt me, oh, that's not good. Because that runs antithetical to my goal, which is to be heard. But if you're an A or C, your goal is to be understood. Somebody interrupts you because they don't understand. Hey, no harm, because now we're aligned in our goal. Let me help you understand. Oh, of course. So,
Amanda, I'm with you. Now my questions. Amanda, as it takes 2 to tango and 2 to have a conversation, obviously there's a preference in how we like to talk, which you've covered. What about how we like to listen? Could it be possible that in the way that we like to be talked to, that also has a range within our preference for the different talk types? And how does that mirror up?
So I have found that the way that we like to talk is also the way that we like to listen. So it's kind of like that shape sorter toy. I'm a toddler mom, so I've got all the toddler toys in my head now. But when we're trying to put a square in a round hole or a star in a triangle, it just doesn't work. And so the things that we filter in, if somebody's doing B and I'm a CA and I don't have B, then I have to end up translating it into A or C in order to make sense of it. And the reverse would be true to somebody who doesn't have some of my letters. And so we're listening for the same things that same reasons that we talk. Mm-hmm. It sort of defines our whole set of life goals. You know, I want to understand the world. I want to understand people. And that shows up in every way. That the way that I talk, the way I listen, the way I do life, the way I have fun. From very social, in broad ways, but also in very intimate ways, with the person that's next to me as I turn out the light. I mean, it shows up on the whole spectrum.
In showing up in all the whole spectrum, Amanda, could our talk types vary based on mood, based on how we are? Like, sometimes we may want to go deep, and other times we're like, I don't need to go that deep right now. I just need an answer. Or I just want to get to wherever that might be. Can our range of talk types swing within our own preferences?
Oh, absolutely. It's really going to depend on, of course, which ones we lean into, our mood, our objective. I like deep meaning, but I don't talk about the meaning of life at every moment. Even that would get too much for me too. A lot of times, actually, I just like to talk facts, or I can even enjoy B, even though it's not in my talk type. I have B friends, and sometimes it's quite fun to engage in that. And sometimes the situation calls for it. And so even if it's not the category that I might naturally do, I need to lean into it because life is calling for it. So the difference, there's a difference between, I like to say, between our preferences and our practices. So our practices can vary, but our home base stays the same.
Interesting. As it relates to the work that you've done with this, Amanda, and obviously being able to kind of define how people have been, have you found that cultures or different cultures lean more towards certain talk types than others based on maybe their ways of learning, growing up, family type environment? I guess what I'm asking is this a nurture nature kind of a thing on what kind of talk types that we have?
So I'll answer your question in two parts. One, quite simply, I'll say, in my experience, this is absolutely a nature thing, not a nurture thing. Because we've got, first of all, we can see from a very young age, kids showing a preference for different talk types and different communication categories from an early age, and they're consistent. The other thing, though, is that in families, sometimes, let's say you're a B dominant, but you're raised in a family that doesn't do B at all. Your B muscle is going to, maybe you're not going to dial it up because you're just not used to it. People don't use it around your house. And so when you finally grow up, get out of the house, you realize, wow, I love this. I'm going to do it more. And so you end up kind of growing into yourself. The other thing is that cultures around the world, there is, so in terms of a zeitgeist, the spirit of the age, there is a sense that you go to different parts of the Middle East, for example, and there's a prevailing C dominant kind of culture, CBs and CAs. You go there, people are out at the coffee shop reading the newspaper, smoking a cigarette, and talking politics and the application of that to their lives and society and the world and the meaning of that. But it's not fixed. We're dynamic. In the U.S., if you go back to the 40s, 50s, we're probably much more of an AC culture generally as a nation. And, prior to that, fireside chats, A dominant with C undertones. But now we're much more of a BA culture. It's a TikTok culture. People want to be entertained. We're not trying to examine the objectivity of things or the factual quality of things. Facts are now very relative amongst a lot of people, and we're looking for entertainment value sometimes more than factual value or meaning. So things can change.
The talk type preference can change. The talk types don't. That's where we're going at. I'm just trying to.
No, actually. So talk type preference individually, they don't change. Collectively, as a nation, the prevailing culture of a nation, yeah, that can change because consider if we go back to the 60s and 70s, we had Woodstock culture, hippies. I mean, we don't have that. I mean, look around. That culture is gone.
We call that San Francisco. I don't know what you're talking about.
BA joke. Actually, that was a BA joke.
So now everyone's got to learn. We're gonna give the plugs in a minute for talk type, so we all know what letters to use when we're doing it. But yes, okay. No, I hear what you're saying, that the time and the circumstances have changed the way that we're communicating it. But what I'm getting at, I guess, is that we, like any pendulum based on certain types of things, we swing and sway as the environment at that time is asking for it, or the audience is looking for it. Yes?
Yes, and let's say you're a BA and we're living in BA culture. Well, then great. Right now, it's your moment to feel integrated into, But then let's say down the road, it ends up being a CB culture. Well, now somebody else is going to feel like, well, society, I feel great, and you're not going to feel that mismatch. So we take turns.
It's a swapping type of thing. I like it. So, all right. I love asking content creators this question. I used to ask authors when you were putting this stuff together, what was your process? But I think the thing I was always really asking for is, you've given the world a gift in this great content that you're sharing, an educational component to make us think about how what we say reveals who we are. So that's the gift that we received in what you wrote. But I've always found that the content creator receives a gift in return when they create such a piece of content. Amanda, when you put together talk types, what happy accident or gift did you get in return from putting it out there?
Gosh, I mean, maybe there's more to this question than I'm immediately thinking of. For me, it was ultimately the satisfaction of seeing that, yes, I could answer this. I spent over 30 years on it. I was that fish trying to define water. If you study communication theory is a mess. And across the human element and the technological element, and people have tried for years to come up with a theory that makes sense. We're all familiar with the sender-receiver model, and but they fall short. They're always missing something, and this one, we have other theory models like gender, communications, how do men and women talk? But this model, it really doesn't matter what the demographic, how your age, your gender, your political persuasion, your culture, your language. All of those demographics are filtered through talk. So I guess for me to be able to really kind of step back and think about just how big that is, for lack of a better word, is really satisfying on just a human level.
I like it. Like answering this 30 some odd year old question for yourself. I do like it.
I tell my students, there are questions that take, seconds, like what to have for breakfast, maybe, what socks to wear, to questions that might take a few minutes or days. And then there are those questions that last for years. And this is one of them. And so there's, and I don't know. I think we get, especially with so much of our social media and I don't know, tech. I love tech. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love tech. But the downside, potential downside of tech is there's always something. It never stops, and so we can get. It's hard to stay focused. Yeah. There's always something else to like take us somewhere, some distraction. Yeah. So staying focused, it can be very rewarding. That's.
I like it. And it's good. This is why I asked that question is like content creators actually don't ever think about sometimes they lost why they did it. You were answering a question and the reward here is that you think you've answered it, which is pretty cool.
It's an accurate reward. Yeah.
Let's do the admin part of the show because I have a fun version of Fun Street coming up. Share with the listeners all the places people can learn about Amanda, where they can get talk types, and what else is coming down the road for you? Obviously, how these talk types might be applicable in other ways. The floor is yours.
So you can find me on talktypes.com, amandakenderes.com. You can get the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and what's coming down the pipeline? Actually, I am looking these days to integrate the talk type model into tech. I'm looking to use the model to interface AI and human communication. I'm excited about that. Tons of work to be done there.
Lots of work in incorporating these talk types, understanding who we are, and getting AI to understand how to maybe find that preference as well and how to communicate, which would be pretty cool, by the way. I like that idea. I like where you're going with this, Amanda. This is pretty cool stuff. As someone who focuses on how to make people step into the best way they could have a conversation, it's pretty cool to know that there's almost a classification system that you've come up with as to the type of talk that you have, which I like. So with that, Amanda, are you ready to go down Fun Street here on Thrive Loud? I know you've listened to the show.
Let's do it.
You do it. All right. Share with the listeners if you could. Does Amanda have like an all-time favorite movie of some sort?
Oh gosh. I didn't get these questions in advance.
Which is why it's so much more fun.
Oh gosh. I don't watch movies very much. I was also not raised in this country, so let's see. I like My Cousin Vinny. I think Great that's movie. A funny movie. And my favorite documentary is The Century of the Self.
Oh, very cool. I like this.
And I love Good Will Hunting. That's a good one, too.
We covered the range. You've just made our producers excited for what they could do for you on the show. All right, Amanda. So we're going to do the Speakeasy Pub Crawl. We're going to stroll down Fun Street. These are all of Amanda's favorite stops. Each one of them is something that resonates with her, as a place she wants to hang out or something that she relates to. So here we go. Amanda, do you have a song or something you've heard of late that's kind of like been buzzing through your ears that's just like top of mind?
Oh, God. That's what, Five? That's what? A song that's been going through my head?
Yes.
No, I'm a toddler mom. I don't have time to listen to music.
Kid music, fair enough. Totally fair enough.
I have on my TV sometimes those YouTube channels that have the relaxing jazz with the Christmas tree in the background, or the whatever season, if it's fall or if it's spring, it's the appropriate season.
Awesome. Amanda, favorite food that is not a dessert?
I am a gourmet chef, and I was raised international. I love all foods, but if I had a comfort food, it would be takeout pizza.
Okay. What is your favorite dessert of choice?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, baklava or something with pistachios in it.
I like it. I love baklava. Yeah. An activity you wish you did more of?
Oh, exercise?
An activity you wish you did less of?
I don't know. Something I did less of. There's too much busyness in my life. I would like to, be less busy.
Be less busy. A new activity, one that Amanda Kenderes has recently tried that she likes so much she wants to tell everybody else to try.
Ooh. Gosh. Being present, meditation with that. I used to really dislike meditation because it was like, oh, looking at the clock, when is this going to be over? But I wasn't present. I was still in my head. But if finding that space to be present in the meditation, and it's a whole new experience. I just discovered that.
Awesome. I was going to ask one last question. Well, two last questions, but one last one related to your work, and that is the young girl who was asking all those very deep questions back then versus the one who's in front of us today. Has your talk type and talk type preference changed over the years, and does it change?
Mine hasn't changed, although I've built muscle to be able to weave in and out with virtually anybody that I interact with. And no, I haven't seen that people's talk types change. But again, people do build muscle just like me. And ultimately, I think the goal would be to be able to use all of them. But it often takes intentionality.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the MDTI, like your brain preference, like it's really like what you prefer to engage with, what you like and what you are, and a lot of those ways are along those lines. And I see how talk types fit into that. That you're basically a core at something else. You're right. You can strengthen the muscles to the other, but you're always at that epicenter of what it is. I like where this goes. Listeners, go check out all the links here. Learned all about Amanda. Check out the talk types. We get to talk types here. So my last question for you is, if I could snap my fingers, Amanda, someone who's been on 5 different continents, and you could be anywhere in the world, where will you be?
Ooh. I might go to Australia next because it would be the 6th continent. And I still want to get to Antarctica. I know two people who've been there and waded through penguins.
Yeah.
And when you talk about it, you get to use the adjective Edenic, it's just the adjective of Eden. And that's fun. So I would love to go to those 2 continents.
Amanda Kenderes, talk types. How what we say reveals who we are. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Cool stuff. You got my inquisitive brain going, and now I'm going to totally analyze myself as to where my talk type falls. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing your gift with the world.
Thank you so much. So it's been fantastic.
You got
Great
it.
to be.
To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep moving onward and upward, and remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.